Today on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. The 31-foot Contender's new fuel tanks are built to last by a powder coating treatment at TNT.
This gentleman's restoring this boat and looking to keep it for a long time, so I want to make sure that it's going to last longer than it did when they originally came out.
FS Boating editor George Labonte joins Jeff Toole and his sons aboard their custom-built 1987 Alumacraft.
We started our day in the Mosquito Lagoon fishing in some very shallow water. This is definitely a capable fishing boat, but this is more than just a fishing boat to the Toole family.
And the Contender project moves ahead in the fiberglass bay, with the deck being dropped in place and more.
I've got this awesome improvement for this boat that's going to totally change it. I can't wait for you guys to see this.
All coming up on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat.
All right, so we've got this 31 Contender in the shop. It initially was coming in for fuel tank repairs. Right before coming in, it went through a hurricane. So now it ended up with a whole bunch of other items that need to be done. But the first thing that we wanted to attack was de-rigging this boat and getting the fuel tanks taken care of. Now, when I brought these fuel tanks up to TJ, I made sure that I told him I wanted to get them powder coated. Now, there's a good reason to powder coat these tanks. They're actually going to be sealed up. All the aluminum is going to be protected from the elements. After Roberto puts them in and I glass them in, there's only going to be so much area that's exposed, and that area that's protected by the powder coating is going to last much longer. This gentleman's restoring this boat and looking to keep it for a long time, so I want to make sure that it's going to last longer than it did when they originally came out.
To begin the powder coating process, the team at TNT starts by thoroughly washing the new tanks with a chemical pretreatment, followed by a final scrub down with soap and water to give them a clean, unobstructed surface for coating. Once complete, the tanks are rolled into a heavy-duty oven that's preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit to evaporate any remaining water. During the 5-minute drying period, the technician ensures the powder coating booth is free of debris, loads the material into the spraying machine, and tests the gun for proper flow and charge. Then, the tanks are removed from the oven, placed in the booth, and the process of coating the tank begins. Because of the powder's unique physical properties, a process called electrostatic spray deposition is used. The spray gun applies an electrostatic charge to the powder particles, and the metal parts being coated are grounded, in turn, attracting the particles and creating a bond. Here, the spray booth has been grounded, and only metal has been used to hang the tanks, supplying the needed negative charge. During this process, it's critical a full, even coat is applied. Additionally, since non-grounded parts cannot be coated, overspray and waste are almost non-existent. After a full coat is applied, the tanks are placed back into the oven. Here, the freshly applied powder begins to melt, creating a chemical reaction that forms a hardened surface, more durable than any standard paint. After baking for 12 minutes, the tanks are carefully removed and checked for full coverage. Once a high-quality bond and application has been confirmed, they're complete and ready for pickup once cooled. While unique color options are available, tanks are commonly coated in a variation of white for ease of cost, availability, and maintenance. Powder coating ensures the metal underneath will stand up to the rough saltwater environment, adding function and style.
This is one of the reasons I love working with TNT. When I drop off a project and a job and I tell them I need it right away, they make it happen. They called me just after a few days and told me the tanks were ready to be picked up, powder coated and all. I sent Robbie up to go pick them up. Now they're ready to get back to the shop, put them in the boat, and Roberto can move forward with his work. All right, so it was time for Roberto to put the tanks in the boat, and before he can actually set them in, he cuts out some wool spacers and sets them on the bottom of the tank. The purpose of that is so that the tank floats off the bottom of the hull and the aluminum is not rubbing against the hull fiberglass. That's going to allow the pour foam that we drop down to insulate and secure, lock the tank in place with to get up underneath the tank. Once that's done, the tank's foamed in, it's locked in place. we're gonna grind that foam and we're gonna make it level on top of the tank, and we're actually gonna do an epoxy lamination that's gonna bond to the fuel tank, right onto the powder coated surface and up to the stringer. Now that's gonna give me a complete sealed compartment and cavity that's gonna not allow water or moisture to get down into that foam. I don't care if you use an open cell foam or a closed cell foam, when water gets in there, it's really hard to get it out. So I'm a firm believer in going the extra mile and doing the extra work just to make the job that much better than the other guys. By sealing all this foam up and doing that little bit of extra glass work, I'm gonna make these fuel tanks outlast the rest of this boat, and that's a fact.
When we return, FS Boating editor George Labonte joins Dreamboat owner Jeff Toole and his sons aboard their custom-built 1987 Alumacraft in this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment. This segment brought to you by Engel, the best performance coolers on the market.
Wake up early on your days off. Go on an adventure. Get out on the water. Here at Engel, we live for these days. We think you should spend more time in nature. Let us help you enjoy it. For those that care about quality, who want to get out into the world with a confidence that their gear is going to stand up to the day's challenges, Engel coolers are built for you.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join us for this week's One Man's Dreamboat segment with Florida Sportsman Boating editor George Labonte, as we feature anglers who have already launched their dream. Florida Sportsman began these features 30 years ago, and the dreams just keep getting better.
Today we're going to go to Titusville, Florida to meet up with Jeff Toole and his sons Dalton and Mason to take a look at their totally refurbished Alumacraft John boat that is really, really neat. Well, Jeff, we got a real pretty day here in Titusville. Tell me a little bit about what you really like to do with the boat.
We just like to use it all around. We built it to run in shallow water, which when my son originally bought the boat, it was built for a skinny water boat, and we just updated it so it would just be a little bit more universal to do other things as well.
I think updated it is a mild understatement.
Well, I certainly appreciate it.
We started our day in the Mosquito Lagoon fishing in some very shallow water. In fact, we sat next to them in a micro skiff flats boat in super shallow water, and that boat with 3 people on it handled it very well. This is definitely a capable fishing boat, but this is more than just a fishing boat to the Toole family.
It's a 1987 Alumacraft 16-foot John boat. Well, this boat was originally bought by my oldest son.
All right.
Sorry.
You want me to? I'll carry on with it.
Go ahead.
Originally was bought from my older brother. After he lost his life in a vehicle accident, we decided to take it and to build it to its best advantage it could possibly be built.
When he bought the boat, he had it for 4 years. He bought it when he was 18, and shortly after he got out of high school. And the stuff that we done to it was stuff that he originally wanted to do to it and just never got around to it before his accident. So after his accident, we decided to take it and just completely redo the boat in his memory. Yeah, it was about a 10-month project from start to finish. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. There was a lot of thought that went into it and a lot of work that went into it.
When Jeff and Dalton decided to complete the restoration that Dustin had started, it was clear that they were going to go all the way to honor Dustin's memory.
We had the front deck extended, and we had gunnels put in the side. We had the rear deck redone and extended. It had a 15-inch transom in it before, and we had that cut out. Had a 20-inch transom put in it. It had a 50-horse Johnson on it, and we took that off and put a 2006 Yamaha 50 horse on it. We had the mini tower redone. We put the new helm on it, and new fuel tank, new batteries, trolling motor, and we had all the sea deck done. We sandblasted the boat and completely repainted it. And back to its original color. This was the original color of the boat. The pinstripes are the original color of the pinstripes for the boat. We just basically completely redone the boat to just make it as multi-purpose as possible, and just a boat that we could really enjoy. There was some of the things that we done on the boat. I mean, and the sea deck was definitely one of them that we done just so we could incorporate him into it. His name is on the front. This fish that's in the front deck right here was actually a fish that he drew himself and had it tattooed on his shoulder.
Well, what we have, you know, a lot of people don't look at it like we do, but to me, it's a beautiful piece of art because there's hardly nothing around like it, and it was my brother's boat. He would have fell out if he could see it. You know, he's like, there's no way that the boat that I originally bought, there's no way that this is it. You know, because of the transformation that had come along, and I look at a lot of this stuff and I think of him every time I'm on the boat. You know, every day I think of him. But
he was just a great young man. And there again, I don't know if this is allowed to be on your show or not, but we're a Christian family, and I know my son was a Christian, and I'll see him again.
What Jeff and Dalton ended up with was something that was so much more, and something that I know Dustin would be really proud of.
When we return, the 31-foot Contender project begins to come together in the fiberglass bay at MCU. This segment brought to you by Power Pole. Swift, silent, secure. Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join the fiberglass crew at MCU as they work to reinstall the decks, console, and more on the 31-foot Contender project.
All right, so the 31 Contender is coming back together really nicely. Roberto and the guys got the fuel tanks installed now. It's time for the decks to go down. Once they get the decks down, we're going to be able to move forward and get started on the console work.
Before the deck can be dropped down into place, the fuel tank's wires and hoses must be correctly installed and routed. Then, before anything is bonded permanently, the deck pieces are laid into place, aligned, and temporarily screwed down to check for the perfect fitment. Once confirmed, the bonding agent, the resin putty, is measured out and mixed together. Back on the boat, the deck pieces are lifted out of place, and the putty is applied to anywhere the deck will make contact. Then the cutout deck is dropped back into place and screwed down until flush. Putty is also used to fill any gaps or voids. Once dry, a grinder is used to remove a small strip of gel coat around the putty-filled gap. Once this strip has been created around the whole perimeter of freshly laid decking, fiberglass strips are cut to size and placed inside, creating a flush, permanent bond with the existing flooring.
So Roberto and the guys reinstalled all the cut floor sections. They actually glassed and tabbed them all back in. Once that's down, then the console goes in. They're actually going to screw that down, but they're also going to glass it in. Now that's a really cool step that Contender takes. It's actually an extra step from your typical construction of a production boat, but it's definitely something that I feel should be done, and I'm actually glad to see there's a production boat company out there that takes that extra step.
To begin the process of reinstalling the console, first, The center decking must be laid back down into place. Putty is used where the in-deck live well will hold water. The rest is held in place with stainless screws. Because of the console's weight, the whole crew is needed to safely drop the console back into place inside the boat. Before it can be secured, its exact prior location must be determined and marked. Then the console is lifted, putty applied to where it will mate with the deck and carefully drop back into place to align with the markings. Screws are used to further secure the console into place. Then high-density foam is cut to size, allowing for easy lamination, adding extra strength. These foam pieces are covered with fiberglass strips, resin, and putty, then left to dry. After sanding, white gel coat is used to paint over the new fiberglass inside of the console. Using a simple roll and tip method, the gel coat lays down smoothly, giving the installation a complete look and feel.
All right, so now that the decks are in, the console's in, the boat's really coming together. And I'm starting to have a vision. I'm starting to see things I didn't see at first. I've got this awesome improvement for this boat that's gonna totally change it. I can't wait for you guys to see this.
When we come back, the crew at MCU has their hands full, from intrepid repair work to custom Grady White enclosures. This segment brought to you by Taco Marine, innovative quality products with extraordinary service.
The following is presented by Taco Marine.
Right here is why all the long hours. This is your escape. Fishing is your passion. It's time to turn out, set out, clip, raise lines, raise fish. Raise your heart rate. Raise your opportunities. Only with Taco Grand Slam outrigger mounts and telescoping poles.
For the finest, most reliable outrigger systems made, go to tacomarine.com.
Welcome back to Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat. Join the crew at MCU as they put in overtime, working to knock out an intrepid insurance claim and a custom enclosure on an offshore-bound Grady White.
I got a call from a customer. He actually keeps his boat down in the Keys, and he needed to get a new windshield replaced for the hurricanes because his windshield got broken from a flying coconut, of all things. We went down, we picked the boat up, we got it up to the shop, and then we had a punch list of items we wanted to address. And then we can move on to the other problems on the boat.
Well, this boat came in, it had a little bit of hurricane damage, so it had some warranty issues and also had some insurance work to be done on this boat. And one of his items that he had questioned was his trim tabs weren't working correctly. I said, let me see if I can't get this covered under warranty. So I contacted Bennett. Ben has always been great covering their products, you know, standing behind them. I told them what was wrong with the pump and what I needed, and they said, no, we're just gonna send you a whole new pump. Put that in, no questions asked. Once I unboxed the pump, I went ahead and filled this pump because there was gonna be hard access to fill this pump once it's in place. You know, it could be done, but then I would make a mess in the bilge. I went ahead and filled the pump on my bench. It just, you know, speeds up the process. You do have a fill line, minimum and maximum on the side of the pump. You can see that. And then we just use a ATF transmission fluid in it. There are special fluids that you can buy to use in it that are just for tabs, but you're wasting your money. ATF is fine. I've been using it for well over 30 years in the Bennett product, and I've never had it cause any problems to the units or the tabs. So I jumped down in the bilge of the boat. The access wasn't that great and kind of hard to work on, really one hand at a time on it, but wasn't too bad. I've seen worse. And Bennett's got a real cool feature for the mount for their hydraulic pump. It just slides down in it. It's like a little carriage. And if you hold on, I got one right here. So the pump just slides into it. You just got to loosen up the top screws to get a little bit of slack, slide the old pump out, and then I was able to slide the new pump in. If I were to have to mount this with the cap being on the boat, it would have been real tricky, but thank God it had the bracket already in there. So the pump slid right in place, tightened up a couple lines like I said, and everything's good to go. He's going to be happy. You got him a whole new pump.
All right, so now that Steve's wrapping up that Intrepid, I need to get with Vic on this Grady White that came into the shop. I got a call from this customer a week ago, and he sent me some photos of his boat. He actually had just purchased it, but he was having a hard time looking through the windshield. I mean, this thing was horrible. The old acrylic, it looked like someone had been washing it with like a detergent or something. It dried it all out. It caused it to haze and crack up. I told the guy I had a great idea for a hard glass enclosure. That's actually like a soft enclosure, but with hard glass inside of it. So it's built with fabric and zippers. You build a phone booth that wraps completely around the console. He told me he's going to be doing some offshore fishing and possibly going to the Bahamas with the boat. So I gave him a great idea of putting extendable wings onto the phone booth enclosure. I got to get Vic rolling on it. Got to point out some things I want to make sure he gets done, and then he could get on his job and get it wrapped up.
So the man came in with the Grady White and was getting splashed with salt out there, and his windshield was in bad shape. So we talked to Brian and went over it and had a discussion. Rather than do plastic for the plastic guys, we made him a hard glass phone booth with Strataglass wings. Take your pattern, and then back in the shop is where all the magic happens. Cut your hem, cut your hard glass, and then that process of gluing it with the weight and letting it dry. The man was never going to roll up his front curtain or anything like that, so we made it out of hard glass. Won't turn colors on you, you know, it's just like looking out the glass of your window, kitchen window, you know. I mean, it just stays like that over the years. It just stays perfect, just like the glass in your house. His wings are removable, so he could roll them up. We made him a bag, and you could stow it away. So if you're out with your friends and you're going fishing and you see a little squall come in or something, your windshield only comes halfway, you need to go with a hard glass little phone booth, and you'll love it. It'll keep you dry, and you'll stay warm, because this is Florida.
So Vic actually did a fabulous job on this enclosure. This thing came out incredible. I love how when I'm standing behind the wheel now and I'm looking through these clear glass windows, it's just like they're not even there. This glass is superior in terms of the clarity. Now in terms of the cost, there's a little bit of a difference. You could have went back with a plexiglass windshield for around 500 bucks. Then you could have went back with a soft glass enclosure for around 1,500 bucks. But when you get into a hard glass enclosure, it's probably gonna cost you a little over $2 grand. But it's worth every penny, because these things, they're so much better for visual optics. It's just completely a different world standing behind a console with a hard glass enclosure.
Next week on Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat, the 31-foot Contender project moves from fiberglass to paint with an unexpected change of plans. FS Boating editor George Labonte joins Chris White on his 15-foot Pathfinder, rigged up for hardcore flats fishing. And Brian meets with the owner of a rundown 20-foot Paramount, who's looking for some serious upgrades. The filming of Florida Sportsman Project Dreamboat has been shot on location at Marine Customs Unlimited. You dream it, we build it.